Hi, my name is Zach Gilliland. I'm a student in the EDS Instructional Leadership Program at JSU. This is my JSU Capstone presentation that I've put together for this term. The title of this is Improving ACT Benchmarks in Math at Sardis High School, which is my place of employment. There's a picture of our school. We're located in Etowah County, northern Etowah County. Etowah County School is a county school district. The purpose of our project here is to bring awareness to ACT math scores. We struggle in that department in terms of state benchmarks. We were behind the 8 ball there, and we've had some fluctuation over the last 4 or 5 years in our particular school. But each of those years, 4 of the 5 years, we've been behind state benchmarks in math on the ACT. So we want to identify the root causes. What is the problem? Why are we not making benchmark in math on the ACT? And develop a plan of action to improve scores so that we will meet those benchmarks, so that we get more of our senior students or juniors who take the ACT admitted into college. What's the rationale? Well, math is used on a daily basis. Everywhere we go, we've got math. Stakeholders within the school will help improve our scores because we need to rely on math, or we have to rely on math in the real world so much. We need people to get behind us and kind of help advocate for us so that we can improve those scores. It's not just used in bank jobs. It's not just used in any college career either. A lot of trades, students who are welders, who are pipe fitters, who are concrete people, masons, they use math. They use numbers on a daily basis. So that is the rationale behind this project. So like context and demographics, we are, like I said, Sardis High School in northern Etowah County is a rural area. We are kind of sitting on the county line between Marshall County and Etowah County. In terms of jobs around the surrounding areas, you got industrial jobs in the Albertville and Boaz areas. You got agricultural jobs in the Etowah and Marshall County areas. You got commercial jobs and you got sales jobs. So there is a wide range of employment opportunities for our students. So we do need to keep in mind that in all facets of every one of those positions, numbers and math are going to be used on a daily basis. Demographically speaking, for our school, we've got about 540 students. Of those, 50.7% are considered to be economically disadvantaged in terms of their SES, socioeconomic status. 53% of our students are male. 87% of them are in the general education curriculum. 60% are free and reduced lunch. And finally, 90% of our students are Caucasian. The other 10% are Hispanic or African American. As Heckman and LaFontaine noted in 2010, high school graduation rate is a barometer or a good measuring stick, so to speak, of the health of American society and the skill level of its future workforce. Now, what that means is, yes, graduation rate is important, but in our instance, we're applying those same principles to ACT math. It's important for our students to score as well as they possibly can. This is 5-year trends at Sardis. So by 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19, math is the lighter blue color. And if you can see, compared to the state score, we are behind. There's our score, there's the state benchmark. In 2018, there's our score, there's the state benchmark. In 2017, we did meet state benchmark, but that's the odd year out. 16, we were way behind state benchmark. And in 2015, we were considerably behind state benchmark. In English, look at our green, we're doing well. In reading, we're doing well. In science, we're struggling a little bit, but not as severely as we are in math. So if for 5 years, 80% of the time, we failed to meet benchmark in math on the ACT. So who is it that's negatively impacted? Students, teachers, central office personnel, parents, the whole community, all the stakeholders involved have negative impacts from this. Teachers, well, from a teacher perspective, the public opinion of the teachers is down when students don't meet benchmark. It puts pressure on the teachers to do more in math to try to get those scores up. In terms of students, they might miss opportunities to go to college or miss a scholarship opportunity. Central office personnel, if we don't do well on the ACT and math, or if our school district gets a kind of a negative vibe in terms of success or mastery on the ACT, then people might stop applying for jobs in this particular district. Parents, if the students fail to get scholarships, then the parents are going to be responsible for school funding if they want their children to go to college. And communities, this is where our kids are coming back to work. As we mentioned, the surrounding areas, there's all sorts of jobs. Many of our kids graduate and then come back to this area for work down the road. So we want them to be the most prepared, the best suited for the positions that they'll apply for down the road. Step 3, so what we're going to do is develop a task force to try to combat this issue. The task force included a math department head who has 17 or 18 years teaching experience, a history teacher, a special ed teacher who happens to have children in this school, the CIP leader, which happens to be the librarian and has been in this school for a long time and has had children come through this school, administrators, principal and assistant principal, and we had a couple of students sit in on this task force as well. So the task force meets, we discussed, we talked about what the problem was. Now we're going to try to figure out a way to combat that problem. So what limitations do we face? Well, anytime you try to combat an issue and you try to fix something in a school, it takes funding. Funding. That's going to be a big issue. Where are we going to get the funds if we have to have additional training for teachers, professional development opportunities, or whatever? Familiarity with the ACT math. We know a good bit about that, but sometimes I think that teachers don't know exactly what type of questions will show up for certain objectives that are listed on the ACT and math. And then teacher buy-in. We have a lot of seasoned veteran teachers here that have done things over the course of several years one way, and they're kind of reluctant or resistant to change. So that is an issue or a limitation. In terms of our decision making, we're all or none. If everybody isn't on board, we're going to back up and punt and figure out a different path of action to go in terms of attacking this issue. So step 5, what are we using against our solutions? What are the criteria against our solutions? We use Scantron Analytics. This gives us pre-ACT data. It gives us student discipline data, it gives us attendance data, it gives us socioeconomic status, it gives us free and reduced lunch status, it gives us pretty well everything we need about each and every one of our students. So we can subcategorize them however we want to. We can take this right here and do pretty well anything we want to do with it in terms of figuring out what we're looking at for whatever data we're trying to find. The pre-ACT test results, basically that's a screening or an exam that's going to kind of give us a look into how the students should score on the ACT the following year. It's administered to our 10th grade students in the spring. And then the actual ACT test results, we'll look at those, and we've already looked at those to figure out that there is an issue. Hopefully this next round of testing in the spring will show that whatever plan we're putting together here is working. Murray in 2014 stated, in order to enhance student performance, data on student achievement must be connected to other data sources. So we're not just using one type of data, we're using multiple data sources and looking at congruent lines of similarities between each of our students. Step 6, so we came up with the task force talked about the proposed solutions. What are we going to do? A, create common planning periods for all of our math teachers. That way that'll allow them to have team meetings to try to come up with ways to better prepare our students for the ACT in math. That way they could also serve, if there were district level PD sessions, they'd all have a common planning period. And there are hiccups to that. Some of them are coaches, some of them are not. Scheduling would be an issue, but that is a proposed solution to determine if we could increase our ACT math scores. ACT prep for all 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students. That's something we would do during this session we call line period. It's a 30-minute period a day, 4 days a week, so it'd be 2 hours a week. We could put all of our freshmen, sophomores, juniors in this, and that way they're continually seeing ACT strategies all the way up to their testing in the 11th grade that spring. That was proposal number 2. The third proposal is to create actual math enrichment courses for the following student subcategories. And these categories come out of our Scantron data. Students are kind of labeled as in need. They need additional help in math. On the cusp means they're kind of right there, nearly reaching mastery of ACT math standards, or they're on the bubble. So those are our 3 proposed solutions to kind of combat this issue. So what we did is we sent out a Google survey, a Google form to like 18 of our teachers. 14 or so of them responded. And in that Google form survey, it asked them, what would you like to see? And we'll go back to this slide. These are the questions. What should we do to combat this issue? All right, and 62% of them favored math enrichment classes for those students that were on the bubble, on the cusp, or in need. 31% said math teachers needed professional development and common planning opportunities. And then only 7% said ACT prep classes. The reason I think this number is so low is because we tried this in the past, and it's something that it turned into a study hall, really, more so than an ACT prep course. And then the consensus, obviously, is by the stakeholders is that math enrichment classes will increase math scores on ACT. 62% of the respondents voted that direction. So that's what we're going to try to do. All right. Step 8. What's the final solution? We are going to incorporate some math enrichment courses for the following subcategories, those students. And what happens is these findings indicate that training will increase ACT scores. Moss and others stated that in 2014. Hopefully that additional training for these students in math enrichment courses over the course of an entire year will help those labeled students improve their ACT math scores. So how are we going to implement this into our curriculum? Well, the administrators and counselors in March of 2020, they sat down and created this master plan, all right? The plan is going to be a schedule for the upcoming school year. In that schedule, all 5 of our math teachers will have a math enrichment course put into their schedule. They don't have a roster yet, but they will be scheduled a math enrichment course. The intervention teachers in May of 2020 sat down and compiled a list of students who were on the bubble, on the cusp, or in need. And these intervention teachers are the ones that do our regular pull-out testing, our additional resource time. They're the ones who do STAR Enterprise with our students. So they are very aware of those students to start with. So they are the ones who compile that list of students who need these math enrichment courses. In June and July, the administrators and math teachers sat down and they created a curriculum, so to speak, of the ACT or the math enrichment courses. They're basing it around ACT's testing and ACT strategies. You can't really teach the test, but they're going to create the curriculum for this course to prepare these students for the ACT. And then in the fall, which is current, math teachers will actually start their courses. All right, those courses will begin for those students, and it will be taught all fall through the spring until the ACT is actually given or administered in March. Moss and others also stated that the findings of this analysis indicate that students who took part in the coaching class improved their composite ACT score by 1.5 points. So in other instances, students that had partaken in studies sort of like this or in enrichment courses like this did improve their composite scores by nearly 2 points. All right, so how are we going to evaluate this plan? Well, after we take the spring administration of the exam, we'll go back and kind of look at the ACT results and see how things went. Hopefully there are gains. Scantron Performance Series, that's the analytics that I was talking about, continually breaking down our subcategories of students, how they're scoring in math, how they're doing in all subject areas, or how they're doing from an attendance standpoint, discipline standpoint, whatever. STAR Enterprise, this is our weekly progress monitoring of our students. Hopefully those who are in the math enrichment courses will be showing gains in STAR Enterprise in math. Pre-ACT test given to our 10th graders. Hopefully the juniors who take the ACT show gains from the pre-ACT the previous year. And then we'll also survey our teachers, our students who are in the enrichment courses, our math teachers, our intervention teachers, to see, hopefully, that they all agree that things are going sort of in the right direction. That's our progress monitoring tools of this particular proposal. And then changes. Well, after 1 year of implementation, we'll take an analysis of that current ACT math data. If the outcomes are positive, if there are gains, we'll stay on track with what we're doing. If there are modifications or changes needed, meaning that the results were negative, then we will reconvene, we'll resurvey, the task force will re-meet, and we'll make those changes as necessary right there, okay? Here are my references from things that I pulled into this presentation, and here are the appendices. This is the 5-year trends of our ACT math data. The math data is right there. These numbers are shown in percentages, and you can see right there was our most current, and that we were behind state benchmark. Only in 2017 did we pass state benchmark, and that's that data that I showed you on the bar graph earlier. Right here is the survey results, where the majority of our respondents said place our students in need, on the cusp, or on the bubble into a math enrichment course. Through this proposal, here are the Alabama Instructional Leadership Standards that were mastered. They are listed there, 5 of them for you. And if nobody has any questions, that wraps up this particular presentation. Thank you.